Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Gaylord National Harbor Convention Center right outside Washington, D.C., where we are covering the Air Force Association's annual Airspace and Cyber Conference and Trade Show. Our coverage here is sponsored by L3 Technologies and Leonardo DRS, and we're always on the lookout for very, very cool things. And we're here with Frank Willis, who is with POC company, or physical optics company of Torrance, California. You're the vice president for business development in the advanced technologies part of the company. And I want to, anytime Donnie Worster says, you got to come over and you got to talk to these guys, you got to listen to Donnie to be able to do that. Donnie Worster, former commander of Air Force Special Operations and a great airman. Talk to us a little bit about this device, because there was the deadly Chinook crash a few years ago. I'd like to ask you about that and how that motivated the development of what is really an extraordinary 3-pound weather station, effectively, that can be deployed in any battle space to give you sort of real-time weather information. Talk to us about the accident and talk to us about how that led to this device you guys developed here.
Well, the accident was unfortunate, obviously, and one of the after-action reports that came as a result of that was they needed a remote weather sensing capability deep into the battle space, and there was a topic that was released under an SBIR program that came out. We then bid on that program. We successfully won it, and we went through the phase 1, successfully through the phase 2, and now we're reaching a point where full rate production is about to occur. Some of the testing that we've gone through on this, we involved the users from day one, so they were an integral part of the actual IPT during the development of this project. So that's what we believe was helped make this thing an extreme success by having that involvement from day one. Some of the functionality that this thing has and provides to the weather reporting capability, but to soldiers themselves, is that it is remote unattended, so no personnel on hand. It's solar powered, it's got its own battery system, but it does 21 different weather sensing parameters. It has a built-in slammer for cloud height measurement. It also has imaging capability, so it does 360-degree imaging. It has communication capability through Iridium. It's got an acoustic sensor that provides ears on the ground, eyes on the ground, and a byproduct, it does weather at the same time.
You had mentioned that it's 128 weather sensing parameters, which is extraordinary. Talk to us about the lifespan of the device. How long can you deploy it? How long can it stay out there? Obviously, robustness is key. How long can you guys be on station with this device?
Virtually indefinitely, as long as power can be generated. Because of the solar aspect of it, if it can regenerate its own power, it will operate. Basically, the long pole in the tent and operationally is the battery itself. That is the consumable. So the intent would be is that once you deploy it, as long as you now get some capability of sun to regenerate power, it'll continue to operate. We've actually had it up on the roof of our facilities for a little over a year and a half, functioning. Obviously in Southern California, we have plenty of sun. And had no issues in the sustaining of that operation. So we believe it almost has an indefinite, but the limiting factor is obviously the battery.
There may be a lot of weathermen who are either very happy to see this or really devastated at its introduction. Let me ask you, what's the price point of this? Because I think that there are some people who are going to watch this that they're going to actually want one of these ultimately. I mean, what kind of price point? I mean, obviously it depends on quantity and volume and stuff like that, but have you actually considered getting in touch with Brookstone and actually starting to sell these?
That we have not, but there's been a number of commercial ventures that we've been looking at. One important one has been the yachting industry. They get their information from obviously satellites, but never local. And so that could be a commercial venture. We've looked at it in Wyoming as an example on Interstate 80. For now, you've got highway and transportation interest in it, in this type of technology at the same time. So those are just some of the interesting things that we have going on with it beyond just military and defense.
Well, as somebody who's a sailboater, I could see that being really, because you're always trying to find out what the zip code is to find out what the weather and the wind is like in a specific place, and so it becomes a bit of a challenge when the weather station is in upper northwest as opposed to on the waterfront. Now tell us what the display is like. So what's the trooper in the field? What's the interface where they're going to see this information?
Well, first of all, the information gets, as we said earlier, it gets transmitted through Iridium, and that goes back to Offutt Air Force Base through the Air Force Weather Service, through AFWebs, which is then the ability to decompose all those ones and zeros that get transmitted back then to a usable format that then gets retransmitted back out to the battlefield commanders. So that's kind of the usability on how the data gets transmitted back to the actual physical user. Now, as an alternative means to operate it, you can actually operate it standalone. You've got 2 serial ports here that give you the ability of providing on-site full-time power that now is augmented by the solar, but then you also have the ability of transmitting straight to a laptop computer and getting direct access to the weather information off of that straight onto a laptop. So if you were in a talk or something like that you needed to have on-site weather reporting capability, you'd have that now directly to a laptop. And we've got the software and the interface and the GUI that would provide that capability.
And this is both airdrop but also hand and placed, right?
That is correct.
And tell us a little bit about POC, because you guys have a really fascinating history as a small business.
We are a women-owned small business located in Torrance, California. We've been in existence for 32 years. We initially started out doing SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research, which we still do a number of. We currently are about 278 employees, of which about 50 to 55 PhDs. So that's where a lot of the innovation comes from. But we really do pride ourselves on our ability to transition the technologies, and I think that's where the value of what the SBIR brings to the services and the community, but at the same time we facilitate and work to make that transition occur so that getting the innovations of the technology out to the warfighter, which is where it's most needed. And
it was a pair of Polish immigrants.
That is correct. They immigrated from Poland, and they basically started the company up on the kitchen table of their house in Torrance, California. And 32 years later, we are growing, and we've done 6 spin-off companies along the way, of which 4 have been acquired by larger companies. And so a very successful track record in the managing of the business and executing it as well.
Sir, thanks very much. Best of luck to you guys. Absolutely fascinating story, and really a great piece of kit. I'm glad Donnie brought it to my attention.
Thank you very much.